This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. I'm Sal Berry, and with me is Tim Parrish and Clemente Lisi. And today we're going to talk about a couple of different things related to hockey collectibles and hockey collectibles, including eBay buying Goldin Auctions, Fanatics announcing that they're doing their own card convention, and a couple of other interesting things. So, guys, how are we doing? Clemente, we'll start with you this time. How you been since our last recording, which feels like forever and a half ago?
All good. I've just been buying Matt Rempe rookie stickers. That's what I've been doing.
You know, those have actually been selling very well on eBay. I saw a closed bid for $40. Not kidding, not making that up, because I was thinking, oh, I wish I bought one because I like him. He's a big, tough guy. And I meant to buy like a 5-pack of them and I just forgot because, come on, it's Matt Rempe. So it wasn't like I was, I was just like, I'll just buy one after the fact. And I'm going to guess that it probably has a lower print run than Connor Bedard's first sticker.
For those who read my last Puck Junk piece, I got a lot of heat for mentioning him and his sticker. So.
And Tim, how have you been?
Oh, I'm just living the dream over here, sitting here armed and ready. Ready for what, you ask? Well, who knows, but I'll be damned if I'm not prepared for it when it comes.
But armed, that's pretty serious.
2 of them. See?
Yeah. I mean, armed for the zombie apocalypse, World War III, Civil War II, What's
whatever they want to bring at me.
Gotcha.
They're coming for my high-end card collection, so I'm ready. I gotta protect it.
Yeah. They're gonna steal your cards and then send them off to PSA for grading.
I'm not letting that happen.
No.
Never. Not on my watch. I'm a tag guy all the way. I am armed. Shots fired, right? No,
right. Yeah. I think I own 2 cards graded by tag. I own a bunch of cards graded by PSA, but I bought them that way. And I own a couple cards graded by Beckett. And Beckett's the only, no, actually I own more than a few graded by Beckett. I think I have about 7 or 8, maybe 10.
I know you have the 2 tag cards because I saw them in your case at the last show.
Yeah, and nobody bought them.
That's a glowing endorsement.
No, I'm just telling the truth. But actually, I take that back. I sold 1 tag card. I think it was graded a tag 9, and that sold. It was a Connor Bedard card, of course. So yeah, I mean,
of course,
eventually it's going to sell or not, or maybe not right away. But hey, let's talk about eBay buying Goldin Auctions, because this is a big deal that's going to have a big effect on the hobby. So who owns the PSA vault? It's Goldin, right? Because eBay has their own vault, and now they have 2 vaults. So what do you guys want to say about this? Because you're probably a little more in the loop on this than I am.
Clemente, you go first. I want to hear your take.
Yeah, no, my take when I first heard about it was, wow, like, just people keep buying each other up. And I think I used the word cannibalism. Like, there's just there's like 8 to 10 major players, in the hobby, and they all just keep buying each other and making this, like, it's like, it reminds me of like whenever hospitals merge or whenever like banks merge or airlines, and like the names get longer. And I was reading about it and it just seems very complicated to me what will happen, but some of the fallout from it will be that that PSA will buy the eBay vault, and then this way when you go to PSA and get your card graded, then you can list it automatically on eBay. So what they're all doing is creating like it's like the ComC-fication of the hobby. ComC was like one of the first ones to create this sort of interactive commingling of variety of services. And this is what's going on now with these other brands like Goldin, the auctions. And look, eBay is an interesting player because eBay is such a dominant force in our hobby. I mean, let's be honest, we all go to eBay to check comps. We go to eBay to, if we need a card, we go on eBay. Like, eBay is the go-to place. But for many years, eBay acts like they're almost like not in the hobby, they act like, well, we also sell lots of other things, and they do. But I think trading cards has become a huge part of eBay's business, and this tells me that they're really interested in being a major player.
Yeah. I mean, I hear all that. I take it. Okay. So I look at this multiple ways. Number one, not that there's anything necessarily wrong with them, but this is what? Second, third time Goldin's been sold to somebody? I mean, look, we all know who Ken Goldin is and where he came from. So he's essentially the home shopping network sales guy, right? So he's going to sell ice to an Eskimo because that's what he does. But it's interesting that they keep kind of changing hands and they're sort of being used as a bargaining chip for one company to bridge the gap to another company, like you're saying. And really what it boils down to is collectors needs something to quickly get those graded cards to auction so that there is some seamless transition of sending the card, getting it graded, putting it up for sale, and not having to deal with sending it back to whoever owns it so that they can do all the work themselves to list it and put it somewhere. So that gives them that. But your first point about everybody's buying up everybody else and consolidating and everything, this is eventually going to blow up in everyone's face. And by everyone, I mean all the collectors. And at some point along the line, maybe not in the near future, but down the line, in the greater grand scheme of things, I see these companies are going to have to break apart and sell off the stuff that's going to become quote unquote obsolete. Because will eBay become? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. Will the grading card companies become obsolete? No, that's not necessarily what I'm saying. But there's going to be a time where I think some of these companies are just getting way too big and they can't manage it all. They just can't. It can't be like that. So I don't know. That's my take, and whether that makes sense or anything, I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking in circles because I'm so nonplussed.
How many vaults does eBay need?
It's not that eBay needs the vault. It's PSA wants the vault. PSA wants to utilize eBay's vaulting service so that they can have a transition. Like that will be their vault now, which means they can easily just put something into that vault so that it can be sold on the eBay platform. That's what they're missing at this point.
So Goldin sells on eBay, correct? They don't use their own platform like PWCC does.
No, Goldin uses their own platform.
They use their own platform. So I guess what it is, and I mean, I see how they're trying to basically streamline the pipeline. So, like you said, instead of having to mail it out to like 6 different places, I mean, now like look at like Upper Deck EPAC, right? You buy something on EPAC, you transfer it to ComC, ComC will get it graded for you, and then it'll come back to your ComC account, and then they'll list it on eBay because they know people are going to pay more for it on eBay usually if it's a high dollar card. So that's an example of where it's like it's all integrated. You got this pipeline that's just like from start to finish. You can buy and sell this card and grade this card and never actually touch the card, never actually have it in your possession.
Right. And that's what these companies want because they want to make it the ease of collectors to be able to handle that. So eBay dipped their toes in adding investment money and putting that towards ComC because they knew it would be a good partnership. This deal is a two-parter where eBay gets basically the utilization of a higher end auction house, because if you have a $500,000 card to sell, I don't think you're going to go to eBay. If you have a $500 card, sure, 5,000 maybe, 500,000 probably not. You're going to go to an auction house. Well, now they have that, so you have this higher end, reputable quote unquote auction house that you can put those higher end items and kind of focus it towards that higher end thing. And then on the other side, PSA gets their vault. So it's like, hey, we're all going to, commingle everything. And so that's kind of what this has become. So eBay is really the winner here, I think, honestly, because they already invested in what ComC was doing and have that partnership and get the benefit of getting all of those auction sales from that platform. And now you're going to get the benefit of having that quick access to all the PSA grades as they come through, shake right through their vault system for the people that choose to do that. So it's obviously a win for both sides. They wouldn't have done it otherwise, but I think eBay benefits the most out of this, to be honest.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Well, and it's what all these bigger companies are doing. I mean, we saw before with Fanatics. Fanatics bought into PWCC. Number one, they could go in and at least make an attempt to try to clean up that cesspool. I can say that because they're not a sponsor.
You can.
And two, they wanted the vault and the auction capabilities. But I mean, they can do it themselves, through Fanatics Live and everything else that they have now. But that was their whole thing of doing that. So that's the key, because I think that's the way a lot of collectors have gone. And as you've seen with the downfall of sites like Starstock and all those, I mean, I don't say downfall because they still exist, but now they're starting to charge people fees, and they're gonna essentially take people's cards when they don't pay the fees. But yeah, so I don't know. We keep having these sites all pop up, and in the end, they run their course and somebody buys them up. So I don't know. I mean, if somebody wants to come buy my site, they can.
Yeah, you wonder when this is going to end, like when the bottom is going to fall out, so to speak, where a lot of the people who are just in this for the money are just like, I mean, everybody's in it for the money to some extent, whether it's, Upper Deck and Tops printing the cards, or Fanatics printing the cards, or whatever, right? Like everybody but wants to make money because it's their industry, but a lot of it is just like, there's a lot of money to be made. So of course there's more of an incentive, right? Like when baseball cards and sports cards, I mean, think pre-pandemic, it was still very niche. I mean, was it a big industry? Yeah, but it felt very niche. And now it feels like it's getting really like big time, especially with like the integration of like the sneakerhead culture, right? Where like, I go online and I say, "Oh my God, this Connor Bedard card selling for $1,000," and everybody's like, "Oh, first time buying sports cards." It's like, no, first time this has infected the hockey hobby. Thank you very much.
Kind of.
Part of it too is that the calculation is that even if the bottom comes out, or if what happened in the 90s happens again, they're banking on the high end stuff remaining high end. So yeah, maybe your $10 card is worth nothing, but Mickey Mantle's bat will still be Mickey Mantle's bat, or Willie Mays signed baseball, or Babe Ruth's uniform, or Gordie Howe's stick. Like the high end stuff is in a different universe. It's part of our hobby, but we're not in that high end part. We're in the, sort of the, we're collecting sets, and we're chasing cards we like, and we're buying Matt Rempe stickers for $30 maybe if we're crazy, but we're not spending. I'm not buying Mickey Mantle's bat. And so the Goldin people, that's what they do, and eBay wants a piece of that. Like Tim's right, eBay wants to be in that world. And then the people that are grading, like the people that are submitting, vault, grading, they're all flipping it. They're not people who are collecting. They're people who are in it for the money. And when that dries out, yeah, that part of the business might dry out a little bit, or whatever. But they'll find another way to, figure something out. But the high end stuff will keep them in business. And I don't know why eBay needs Goldin. If eBay wanted to go and splinter off and say, we're gonna create eBay premium auctions, and we're gonna do a separate site, because they have the capacity. eBay built the infrastructure. In a lot of ways, eBay has taken the garage sale and put it on the internet, right? And so if they wanted to go high end and become Sotheby's, they could totally do it. Everyone's heard of eBay. eBay is like Google, Facebook. You've heard of it.
They could, but I think for the same reason why you just said that, everybody's heard of eBay. So you have if I want to go and buy some weird candle holder that my grandma had when I was a kid,
Right.
I can go find it on there, in addition to my sports cards that I'm looking for, or a pair of socks or ink cartridges for my printer. I can find it all on there because it's kind of like Amazon, sort of. Everything's available. Most of it's used, but it's all there. Versus here's an auction house that's been around for a while that's known for higher end type stuff and the type of consignments that they have. Not only that, they had their own TV show on Netflix for a while. So it's like you bring in this high profile auction house to cover that part of the hobby, whether it's memorabilia or cards in general. I mean, you don't have to then establish yourself as an eBay premium and then try to build up that following. Not that they wouldn't be able to, but now they don't have to. They can just keep it separate and done. So I think that was one of the big reasons.
I also got the impression from the announcement that Ken Goldin isn't going anywhere.
No, apparently he's still in charge of it.
Yeah, he's gonna run it like you never like. And usually when there's a takeover, you don't keep the people. So it's a very curious kind of takeover. It's not. I wouldn't even call it that. It's almost like an alliance.
When Collectors bought him, he didn't go away either. He
Right.
stayed in charge.
Yeah. So it's not like the name is staying and he's gone. It's like, no, he's still there running the day to day. So nothing changes for him and the people who work there. So it is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you look at we're going to talk about Target in a little bit and about their lack of sports trading cards at some locations. But you go buy a cup of coffee at Target, what brand is it? Like if you bought a cup of fresh coffee hot in the store.
Starbucks,
right. Yeah, I mean, could Target develop their own brand of coffee and have their own chain of in-store coffee shops?
Sure.
Of course they can, because they're huge, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, well, we'll just bring in Starbucks because they're known for this. People like them, and they kind of have all of this figured out already, right?
Yeah, there's value add to having them partner with them.
Right, exactly, right? Versus I'm trying to think back to like when McDonald's, well, their coffee used to be nasty, and now they have that McCafe, and they call it McCafe, but I want to say I could have sworn they used to sell somebody else's coffee for a little while, but I don't remember. Like they brought somebody else in house, like a Seattle's Best or something, or maybe I'm making that up. I don't know. But
all I know about their coffee is it's very hot, and you should not put it between your legs when you're driving a car. That's all.
No, it's based on personal experience, right?
But you can sue them and win.
Yes, that's why when you get the cup, it says hot, 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 hot all around the cup.
I like that, yeah.
In case you miss it. So anyway.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I guess like most of us have enough of a self-preservation instinct that we're not going to put hot coffee close to our lap, for that reason.
For people that don't know what we're talking about, there's a very famous lawsuit from many years ago involving a woman who did that and sued McDonald's and won. And so McDonald's had to totally modify the way they served coffee for a while. So,
in fact, that was so old that I wrote a speech in high school.
Wow.
About frivolity in America and people suing for stupidity.
Right.
And that was one of the cases I used as an example.
Yeah.
So that tells you how long ago it was.
Wow, in high school. Yeah, it was like in the 90s, and then they parodied it on Seinfeld, where Kramer got burned by hot coffee and he was suing.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Gavinia, I think, is the coffee company McDonald's uses.
Who?
Gavinia is called. It was like this guy that used to be a coffee guy down in Cuba, and he moved to California and started it again.
Okay. Good to know. So speaking of Target, so last week I was at my Target killing time before one of the classes I teach. I had like an hour to kill. So I'm downtown Chicago. I go to Target, and of course I'm looking for Series 2, Upper Deck Series 2, 23, 24, tins or blasters, because I still don't own a Connor Bedard Young gun. Probably going to have that on my gravestone. Here lies Sal. Never got that Connor Bedard Young gun. But so I go in there just hoping maybe they'll have some Series 2, right? They had a sign up that said 20% off all sports cards for Target Circle members only. Today only. So I texted Tim and Clemente and I said, okay, guys, talk me off the ledge here. I'm about to buy some blasters. And then they're like, well, we don't have any hockey cards at our Target. We don't have any sports card at our Target. So I just kind of assumed that all Targets had sports cards again, or that they did, like in general. I mean, there's even like a crappy little Target Express about a mile from my house that was like used to be like a Walgreens drugstore, and then they turned it into a Target Express, and it's really kind of sad and small, but they still have sports cards at this one. So the big one downtown that's like 2 floors, yeah, they had sports cards. I ended up buying some 22-23 O-Pee-Chee Platinum and some 22-23 Parkhurst Champions. We'll definitely do episodes about those because we have to, because they're both very cool sets. And then I bought some repacks because a fool in his money, and I'm like, ooh, 20% off. But anyway, so yeah, so what's the skinny with your neck of the woods, respectively?
Well, I'm gonna say so. I'm in New York City, and the New York Targets. You would think they're like Chicago, like very urban and all that.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of sports cards in the ones I go to, and there's 2 or 3 of them that I usually try to make the rounds. And when they do have cards, they do have hockey because it's the least popular of all the sports, I'm guessing. So there's hockey, but it's always like MVP. And it's like, how much MVP can I buy? But when there are some sports cards, they're usually in the past they were searched. You can tell that they've been all kinds of manipulated. In some cases, they even opened. But the ones I've been going to in recent weeks and months just have Pokemon. They have all the gaming stuff, but no sports cards at all. And so, but because of the prices and everything else, I've kind of just stopped buying anything that's packaged. I haven't bought any wax and or packs in forever. So I kind of just gave up on doing that. And whenever I want anything, I just go online and buy them.
Yeah, makes sense. Tim, how about you?
It's kind of the same story. And the funny part is, I'm 45 minutes from downtown Chicago, where I live. So, tale of two cities, right? You have Chicago and New York, but I'm out in a suburb. I'm not even in the same state, but I'm in a suburb, and nothing. I mean, I got 2 Targets in my general area. Neither of them ever have hockey cards. They have other sports. One of them does. The one that my son works at never has anything because they have a regular group of people that come in and wipe the shelves out, and they don't stop them. So they still time out when the vendors are there.
So people still doing that? People still doing that?
Yeah, they still accost the vendors when they get there. They still stand around the registers and watch them fill like a bunch of rabid, crazy dogs. And as soon as they're done filling the shelf and they roll their U-boat back to the back, they just grab it all and go up to the registers.
Like even my Target where they don't have sports cards, maybe they do sometimes. They have a sign that says you can only buy 2 packs, 2 boxes or whatever.
Well, there's plenty of signs. Nobody pays attention to it.
Oh.
And the employees that work there, what do they care?
Right.
Here's the part of the problem with retail, okay? And you've probably heard this before, and it was like this when I worked in retail. Trading cards are a vendor item. So their SKUs and UPC codes, yeah, they work in your system, but they all come out of inventory that's vendor driven. So half the time when you do inventory, that stuff's either not counted or it's counted separately because it comes off of a different list. So because it's vendor run, most of the people don't even care about it. That's why almost every retail store you go in and they have a trading card section, it always looks trashed unless the person was just there because the employees don't mess with it because it's not their job.
Right.
In a normal consumer's mind, they're like, this is your merchandise in your store. You should do something about it. But that's not how it works. So, you get all these guys that come in. What are you going to do? Stop a bunch of like 5 or 6 grown men that are just going to grab a bunch of baseball cards? Nobody cares about that. So they wipe out the shelves. My kid tells me all the time. I've been asking him for months and months. Series 2? Nope. Anything? Nope. You have Parkhurst yet? Nope. Not months on the Parkhurst, and he said, we had a couple boxes of the ones that I got you for Christmas, which were Series 1. But that was weeks and weeks ago, and those are gone. And then the other Target that's closer to where my office is, they haven't had hockey cards in easily a year. And Walmarts don't have them. And the Meijer that's near me doesn't have them. So that's it. They're not there.
Just reiterate what town or area you live in, because you're in Indiana. But what would you tell people you're around?
Northwest Indiana. So pretty much any town in Lake County is near me, even Porter County. So like Cherville, Maryville, Dyer, St. John, Lowell, Valpo, Chesterton,
Mm-hmm.
Hammond, Whiting, Gary, all of those. They're all in the general vicinity of where I am.
Gotcha. Yeah, Northwest Indiana, popular suburb of Chicago, practically.
Right.
It's always at your local Chicago and Northwest Indiana McDonald's or whatever, right? They always say those two things together.
Yeah. Chicago doesn't claim us as a suburb, even though we are, and Indiana doesn't claim us as being a part of their state because they hate us. So.
Wow. Ouch.
I mean, it's more of a political thing.
No, I get it. But I'm surprised that, well, no, actually, I'm not surprised, but I guess I'm a little surprised that there's still that whole card thing going on with the grown men, with the people staking out the card vendors. Remember the person who tried to rob the guy of his Pokemon cards and he pulled the gun on them in the parking lot of a Target in Wisconsin? Remember that whole thing that went on?
Yeah,
and
that's
then
what started them putting up signs saying you're only allowed one per customer.
Right. So, well, yeah, and I mean, for a little while they put their cards behind the counter, like behind the customer service counter, and you had to ask for them. And then for a little while they put them over by the electronics section where the security tended to be a little tighter, and you had to like go all the way in the back of the store instead of at the front towards the register. They always put the electronics towards the back, right? So I remember this, and I remember for like a while I'd go in and I'd say, "Do you have any sports cards?" And half the time they'd roll their eyes like I was some miscreant and be like, "They're over by the toys," or "They're over by the electronics," right? And then eventually the cards migrated back to the front of the store by the checkout. And I do remember the signs that said limit 2 per customer, and I always ignored them and used self-checkout because honestly, nobody was stopping me from buying 2021 or 21-22 Upper Deck hockey. It was just like that. You know what I mean? And like, honestly, I would go to a Target and they'd have like, say 4 tins. And I'd be like, I don't think I want tins, right? And then I'd come back a week later and they'd have the same 4 tins. And then I'd buy them. And then I'd come back a week later and then they would have another 4 tins and I'd buy them, or that, you know what I mean? Like, I could tell that I was the only person buying hockey cards at this Target, because when you walk in and they have 8 of something, and you buy 4 of them and then you come back and they still have 4 of them, or they have like 8 of them, you know that you're the only, you know what I mean? Like, but now it's like even like when I went, they had like a ton of platinum, and I think I bought like 1 blaster. But yeah, I mean, I guess it just depends on the product. But yeah, it's funny that it's kind of come to this again, or maybe it never went away. They took down the signs at the Chicago Targets that say limit 2 per customer. But like I said, I don't think it's as big of a deal as it was.
I think it just depends on where you are.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously in your place, it's not a big deal. Where I am, I know for a fact that they have stalker people that are still there, only because I have an inside person that works there. Doesn't get me any cards because there aren't any, but still, I know what happens there.
Dude, your kid works at a Target. You should be getting that sweet, sweet Target discount on sports trading cards next time something good comes in.
Unfortunately, there's not much of that. So
yeah. So let's talk about this Fanatics convention, FanaticsFest. FanaticsFest. Sorry, plural. Not Fanatic Fest, FanaticsFest. Really worked hard on that title, but that's okay because I remember what I'm a sucker for alliteration, and I remember when Chicago Comic Con became Wizard World, when Comic Con became Wizard World, when it was bought by Wizard Magazine in the 90s, and then eventually became Comic Con again. So yeah, big fan of alliteration here. Clemente, what do you want to say about the Fanatics Fest?
Well, look, we've been talking about this for feels like years. Fanatics has been, I use the word threatening to do this, and here they are. They're going to create the Comic-Con version of, a sports card show or a sports memorabilia trading show. And So Fanatics Events is putting this together. We should point out they pulled off an event similar to this recently in Philadelphia for WWE. It was all wrestling. So this is interesting because this only takes place 3 weeks after the National. It takes place in New York City at the Javits Center, which I'm always been told, oh, well, you can't have the National there because, it's a union place. And, if you want to move a table, you have to pay five guys $40 an hour to do it or whatever. And it's interesting because Fanatics will do it at the Javits Center, which is famous for having the boat show, the car show, that kind of stuff. And so it checks a couple of boxes, which is, yes, you can have this event in New York City, and the National could easily be in New York City, and it's not. The other thing too is that some really high profile people will be there. Tom Brady, Kevin Durant, Peyton and Eli Manning, Derek Jeter, Hulk Hogan. A lot of these people are signed with Fanatics, so of course they'll be there. So it's super interesting. The one part that is lacking is it doesn't say it's a card show. So there might not be any card vendors like you would see at a show. Imagine going to the corporate section of Fanatics at the National, but imagine the entire thing is Fanatics, including a main stage with 2,500 seats. So they're going to have a lot of programming, just like Comic-Con. And so it's going to be interesting. I think I'm going to go because I'm in New York and I'm curious. Now, tickets go anywhere from $40 to $400, some crazy thing. So I'm guessing the more you pay, the more access you get, obviously. I can only imagine what these autographs are going to cost.
40, do they have a discount for early purchase?
Or was it 80, something like that? It was very, but it was like, wait, that sounds
Single day was like 50 when I saw it.
really okay. So yeah, so it's
Yeah.
expensive, and then it goes to like $800, whatever it is, and so it's super expensive. But the other really interesting thing is that it's the exact same weekend as the East Coast National, which takes place literally an hour north, which is like New York City's or New York area's biggest card show. The same people that putting together the National are put together that show. So it will be competing with that. And so depending on what the card offerings are, it's very fascinating. I think it's going to become like Comic-Con. They'll have this in Chicago and San Diego and whatever, or they'll rename shows. But I think this is really their Trojan horse, their test. Can this be viable? Can this work? Now, I think it works for Comic-Con because people dress up like C-3PO and they go. Sports is a little different. So I'm really curious to see how they handle it. But it's interesting that it's right after the National. And I think there'll be more to come for sure.
I like that C3PO was your example of who they dress up as, because that'd be a pretty tough costume to put together. For the record, I did dress up as C3PO when I was in like first grade or maybe kindergarten.
We had the plastic, one.
The store bought costume where it had like the mask that just covered the front of your face and had like the rubber band, and then it had like the plastic jumpsuit that was gold colored.
Yes.
And it was actually for like a 5-year-old. It was a pretty sweet costume.
But by the end of the night, the string broke and the costume was like ripped on the side. But anyway.
Yeah. You know what I like though about the most of the Star Wars costumes? Do you remember like if you bought like say like a Mickey Mouse costume, it'd be like the Mickey Mouse mask and then it would be like the jumpsuit, but then on the chest there would be like a Mickey Mouse, like a cartoon Mickey Mouse, like oh, Mickey Mouse is walking around with the shirt with himself on it, right? Like because they had to like really drive the point home. But like if you got like a Star Wars costume, like the C3PO costume had like all the like circles and lines and stuff. So it kind of like they tried to like replicate that. Or I think like one year I might have had like a Boba Fett costume and it did like the same thing where it had like the armor. It was all printed on plastic.
I just want to say that I went on for like 3 minutes about FanaticsFest, and you went right to Star Wars. Everything I said meant nothing to you.
No, actually, it meant everything.
The only thing that meant anything was your C-3PO comment.
No. And I'll tell you why this meant everything, because I actually want. There's a lot of things I want to say about this.
Yeah.
I know we kind of have like a love-hate thing, or maybe a hate-hate thing with Fanatics. They don't really bother me. Well, I guess it kind of bothered me now because they got into the whole sports betting thing, and you could spend your winnings on Fanatics merchandise, and I'm like, oh, okay. But then, like, even like your losses, like I think they say like 5% of your losses you get like Fanatics store credit. So I'm just like, this couldn't be great or this could be terrible. Haven't really thought this all the way through yet, right? But honey, I know I spent our child's college fund, but I got 5% of it back in Fanatics merchandise, right?
By the way, the biggest gamble at Fanatics is actually buying their merchandise, because if you buy their baseball jerseys, you'll sweat through them, and God knows what will happen with their hockey jerseys.
Those jerseys are a joke, and
Yeah.
that could be a topic for another podcast or
Yeah, can't wait to see what they do with the NHL this summer.
Exactly.
yeah, I know, and they have little tiny numbers on them or whatever.
Oh,
But
anyway,
what I like about this show is that they're trying to make it like Comic-Con. My biggest complaint, and I've said this a million times, so sorry if you've heard this a million times from me, but the business model for card shows is you show up, you buy stuff, you go home, you come back the next day, you buy stuff, you go home. Is it a national? You do it 5 days. If is it a sports spectacular or White Plains show? You do it for 3 days or 2 days, right? And I don't like that, because all it is about is showing up and buying things, and that's all they care about, right? There's no interaction with other collectors. Look, the three of us are friends because we made the time to seek each other out at shows and socialize with each other and talk to each other, trade cards with each other. And this is what the hobby needs more of. They need more of like what we do. But there's really not a lot of avenue for that at these card shows. It's show up, buy stuff, go home, right? Like now, when I go to a comic book convention, or actually even a step better than that, are the anime conventions, because they have a lot of panels, and a lot of the panels are run by fans. So it'd be like if the three of us wanted to do a panel discussion about Pro Set in the 90s, right? We could do that. We could just sign up to do that and then do that and talk about it. And like if we wanted to do a presentation about it, we could. If we just wanted to talk about it or get people to, what do you think of this? What do you think? We could do that, right? That's how anime conventions are. We lack this in the card collecting shows or the card shows. And the one example I always throw out, and I'll throw it out again, I remember one year Topps had a panel, and then they had a Q&A at the end of the panel. That room was packed. It was packed. Half the people there, maybe a third of the people there, like myself, weren't even into baseball cards. They just wanted to go to something that was not just show up and buy stuff. And it was after the show had ended. The room was packed, and people were just hanging out. There was no place to sit. People were just happy. They just wanted to be around other collectors. Like I was introducing myself to other people and passing out cards. It was not really like a networking event, but it was like a, hey, you like this? I like that. Cool. Right? We need that. We need that in the card collecting or the sports collecting hobby. And I hope that it does that. I hope this gives people opportunities to come together, to talk to each other, to make new friends, and to be more interactive with the fandom and not just show up and buy stuff and go home, rinse, repeat.
well, I think the trade night was supposed to do that, and it does not do that. The expo in Toronto does a little bit of the panels and stuff. But you're right. Overall, it card shows don't do that. My only concern here is that this seems very corporate, very much like high end. So I don't think like regular Joes are going to drop a couple of $100s to go to this thing and spend oodles of money to get Tom Brady's autograph. Like you're talking about a particular type of collector, and maybe there is opportunities for kids and people like us who want to spend less money, but it just seemed very much like get ready to spend a lot of money this weekend. Otherwise, you won't be able to even get within 100 feet of this place. What do you think, Tim?
Well, I won't be going because I read on their website that they don't allow crossbows and aerosol mustard. So I'm definitely not going because of that. But that being said, I agree with what Sal said, is we need more types of things that are interactive. And if you look at all of the events that are supposed to take place and what the show is supposed to feature, it's exactly what this is. There's no mention of there's going to be a dealer room with a billion tables that you can go to and buy cards from. Now, they do mention, they call it the trading pit. I don't know what that means.
Well,
Kind of sounds like it's going to be one of your favorite things, Clemente. But
it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
And it's going to stink. It's going to stink like an armpit.
okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt here. Let's hope it is like a trading type thing. Okay, so maybe it's people selling to each other in a room, but it's nobody that bought a table and they have their dealer table set up and everybody's doing whatever.
Yeah.
And I obviously they're going to have boosted Wi-Fi because everybody's going to be on their phones. But they're having a live breaking pavilion, which is all going to be Fanatics Live approved breakers. So it's all going to be the typical people that you see on there. It's supposed to be athlete meet and greets, which I don't know if that can entail like interviewing and everything along with like the main stage type stuff that they're going to have. Here's the only thing. It's Fanatics. What is their inclusion with anything else that's hobby related that they don't already own? Right? So you look at what branding that they have under their licensing, and it's the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, wrestling, UFC, obviously Tops. They own Lids. I think I saw on their thing that Gary Vee is one of their featured people going to be there. So, Vayner X and all of his stuff is going to be part of the show. So they have NHL licensing when it comes to apparel, but not for trading cards. But while we're looking at this from the standpoint of, is this going to put shows like White Plains out of the picture, the East Coast National or the Chantilly show or even the National? Is this going to put those out of business? Those are mostly trading card shows with memorabilia and stuff mixed in. Whereas this is mostly, I think somebody said it, it's Comic-Con for sports. So it's like taking all of the good parts of Comic-Con that everybody likes and gearing it towards sports. And it's all going to be through all of the branding that Fanatics has. So if you're into any of those types of things, you can bet that's what's going to be a heavy dose of. Now, are there going to be tables to buy and sell stuff? I don't know. If there are, I'm sure it's all going to be Fanatics stuff.
It'll be all the merchandise they produce. Exactly, right.
Right. Because fat chance they open a vendor floor up and you got a guy from Canada that comes down with all of his Upper Deck hockey cards and that's all he sells. Because,
right.
I mean, what good is that for them? So
and that's the other thing that's missing here is there's no hockey here, potentially, no Upper Deck. And so this show might not be the best place for a hockey collector, but maybe because they make apparel and other things, it could be. But do I want to go to a show just to buy like a new Rangers jersey when I can buy that anywhere, anytime? No, I think it works for Comic-Con because, sci-fi, the actors, all that is conducive to dressing up and it's almost like a lifestyle. But sports is not a lifestyle. Sports is you play sports or you collect stuff, but there is none of this like I show dress up like Tom Brady. It's gonna be weird.
Right. And one thing I wanted to say though with like Comic-Con is that a big part of it is still the dealer area where you buy the comic books because that's kind of like what it all comes back to. I mean, Comic-Con has kind of become more than just about comic books. It's really about like entertainment basically, like movies. And you got all these movie comic books, but still, you know what? If there's a new Star Wars movie, yeah, they're going to show the trailer at Comic-Con, although they might show it first at the Star Wars Celebration convention. But you get the idea. If something big is going to happen, they're going to try to have a presence at Comic-Con, but there's still the show up and buy comics because that's kind of like at its core what it's about. Now, of course, I've never been to the San Diego Comic-Con. I've heard a lot of people say it's gotten way too commercial and way too much about the movie premieres and, oh, we have the cast of the new Star Wars movie here or the new Marvel movie here. And so I'm maybe not the biggest expert on this, but that has to be a component of it. Well, maybe not with the Fanatics show. I mean, because, yeah, like you said, they're kind of going for that, like, that different kind of, how do I say it? I'm trying not to use a metaphor that sounds dorky, but like, yeah, they're not worried about the guy selling the commons to finish your set of cards. That's not the kind of show they're putting together. They're putting together the person who's going to spend $400 on a Hulk Hogan autograph and photo opportunity and dress up like Hulk Hogan to stand next to Hulk Hogan while you're getting photographed with Hulk Hogan. I mean, I remember seeing like a photo of like a whole family and they were all dressed like Hulk Hogan, the husband, the wife, the kids. And I remember seeing them walk by, and I'm like, I feel so bad for the wife and kids right now, because we know that it wasn't the wife's idea. We know it wasn't the kids' idea. Maybe they were on board with it, but I just can't see the little 5-year-olds being like, hey, we want to wear a yellow bandana and go to the convention.
I think it's going to be interesting, and people are going to be talking about it for months on end afterward.
Yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts before we move on?
No, I just know I won't be there. That's all.
No, Clemente, we'll send you. We'll
Yeah,
send you as
I'll go there as a special correspondent. I'll be in the pit.
yeah, in the trade pit.
Can you be the roving reporter and like have your earpiece in? I'm here today, and just make like the helicopter sound. The
That'll be more like the Kermit the Frog from Sesame Street.
Kermit the Frog here.
With a trench coat.
Yeah. No, yeah, Clemente reporting. And I'm thinking more of like Les Nessman reporting. I don't know if you've ever seen the WKRP TV series.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and he'd always
Oh,
be
yeah.
reporting from whatever.
Yeah.
The Thanksgiving turkey drop.
That's right. So
So, speaking of turkeys, the person who bought the full 16-box case of 1979-1980 O-Pee-Chee hockey cards still hasn't paid the 3.7 million, not billion, $1 million or whatever it was with buyer's premium, the over $3 million case of O-Pee-Chee cards.
Yeah, 3.67.
Yeah, but he's in Canada, so that's like over 5 million Canadian.
Heritage says he's paid $3 million of it, but I mean they're not going to obviously release it until it's covered.
No, you got to pay for the whole thing. You can't pay for 2/3 of it and take it home. This is not like a car payment plan where you like pay as you go, right? This is layaway, baby. This is like me buying that Fish Sticks jersey in 1998 when I didn't have the $30. So every week I just went and put $5 down on it until it was on. I found a Fish Sticks jersey at clearance, a New York Islanders Fish Sticks jersey, and it was on clearance for $30. And I found a Sharks jersey on clearance for $30 because they changed their uniform that year. And so I didn't have $60, and I didn't really have a credit card then. So I kept going back to the store and putting another $5 down. But I don't think you could do that with the O-Pee-Chee case either. You got to pay it in full or pay most of it and then pay the rest of it. And what's funny, and I'll let you guys talk about this because I know you got a lot to say about this, but like the dude is like, oh, I want it to go to somebody who really wants the case. Really? Were you thinking that when you were bidding on this thing? Were you thinking, oh, I really want somebody to win this who likes it, right? No, you weren't. You were thinking maybe this would be good publicity, or maybe you could resell it. I mean, the guy says he's not a card collector, so apparently he didn't know what he was doing, because the three of us crunched the numbers and said, yeah, there's really no way you're going to make back your money from this case, right? We all said that. It's on tape. We have a recording of us saying this.
Pretty sure the only reason why he has cold feet is he listened to that episode and now he's bailing.
He's like, what have I done? Why didn't I talk to Tim and Clemente and Sal before I placed that winning bid, right? So
those puck junk guys, man, they've convinced me that I made the biggest mistake of my life.
They know their stuff. So he's tried to get Wayne Gretzky to buy the case. He's tried to get Drake to buy the case. He's basically going down the list of people that we thought might buy the case before he did. But yeah, I mean, I don't even want to say the dude's name because I don't want to give him any publicity, because it's like, dude, you got to be the winning bidder and get some publicity for that, for what it's worth. And now you're not even going to pay for the thing.
I gotta say, the whole story is odd. It is very odd. So when I watched the video, so CBC in Canada covered this like it was like a presidential assassination, like they wall-to-wall coverage on this stuff. And the video I saw where they interviewed him, he sounds like almost like he didn't know what he was doing. But I think he has buyer's remorse, obviously. But you know, he looked a little bit like Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas, where it's like his whole life is falling apart. It's like bloodshot. He even says, I drank 4 Red Bulls just to stay up, because the auction ended at 1 a.m. Toronto time. And it just, the whole thing seems bizarre to me that he would put $3 million down and then say, you know, I don't really want this anymore. And I want someone to finish it off, and someone who actually wants it, like, as if, like, he acts like somebody, like, when someone says, "Oh, I didn't mean to buy that card, my kid bid on it on eBay." Like, that's how he's acting, and it's just very strange to me because he doesn't look good. He doesn't come across as looking good here, and the whole time we were always wondering, like, what would you do with this box? And now we have the answer, which is, don't even finish paying it because I don't want it anymore. That's really the answer here, because it doesn't make any sense to me that you would bid on something, be that aggressive. Because who's the second bidder? That's what I'm curious about. Because then maybe that person would say, "Oh, I want it." I don't know, but the whole thing is just strange to me. I don't know if there's more to this story that we don't know, but I'm just totally baffled.
I mean, you guys had already heard what I said when we talked about this the other day, just going over things to discuss. This essentially signals the fact that, not that we didn't already know this, but there are no auctions that are safe from stupidity. I mean, really. Not eBay, not PWCC, not Goldin, and obviously not Heritage. And like you said, the only thing missing from this story is oh, sorry, my 3-year-old bid on this by mistake. Please cancel my bid. Thank you. He says he's not passionate. Not passionate? What?
But he's on the hook for this. He's on the hook for this. You can't just say, I don't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. I'm sure you sign all
He
that.
absolutely has to.
Yeah. So
You can't turn around and say, I'm not passionate about it. Well, you were certainly passionate when it came down to bidding. And you outbid somebody else that may have been passionate, but
right.
wasn't willing to pay the extra $300,000 per bid that I think it was up to that point.
Mm.
So, I mean, he's just another in a long line of degenerate gamblers that got caught up in something. And now he's remorseful that he even bothered going through with it. I mean, he mentions in his article that, like, oh, well, if I can't find a buyer, I'm going to give it to this person that loved hockey that I once did. Good luck finding your long lost love interest from elementary school that you have this creepy stalker shrine in your basement for. I'm sure she'd be happy to accept your gift after she lifts the restraining order that she's taken out against you. That's probably 35, 40 years old at this point.
Well, if she knew anything about hockey cards, she would lift that restraining order to accept that gift.
I mean, of course. And who wouldn't take a gift that's worth $3+ million? Here's what I don't get about all this. Yeah, well, and if she's in the United, I don't know what the gift tax is up in Canada, but in the United States, she's going to be paying taxes on a ton of that.
Oof.
Here's what I don't get. Why Heritage lets it slip out? Like, why do they let it slip out? Because that's bad publicity, and we've said a million times that no publicity is bad publicity, but it kind of is. This kind of is. Because it brings profile to the fact that you have holes in your vetting process of who you're allowing to put bids in for $1 million items. If somebody doesn't have the ability to come up with the money or can't cover the money or any of that kind of stuff, how are they able to bid? And who's going to want to consign with a high profile auction house that has payers just skip out and can just say, well, I'm sorry, I'm not passionate about it? Why don't they sue the guy? Because like you said, he's got to be on the hook for it. Your bid is your legal contract. It says it in the fine print of anything that you bid on. It's a legal binding contract. I think it's a bad look.
Oh, yeah, it'd be a great story. It's a bad look, though, but I mean, why did they leak it out? I'll tell you why. It's like when people change their Facebook status to single. Like, it's like they're saying everyone, hey, guess who's single? If you're interested, I'm single, right? So that's that you're saying, like, hey, this guy's not going to buy this thing. So everybody starts thinking, oh, cool, maybe I got a shot at this.
Why not do it after the fact? So he finally just says, you know what? No, I'm not paying for it. Okay, fine. We're going to go after you and sue you. But in the meantime, hey guys, guess what? This buyer didn't pay. We're putting it back up for sale. Instead of this whole elaborate thing.
This is how I think it could play out. One way or the other, I mean, he's either going to pay for it or he can't pay for it and then it's going to go to court or whatever. But this is what I would do. I'd say, hey, pay the buyer's premium and you're off the hook. And then put it back up at auction.
Honestly, I don't see how he's not off the hook for at least the buyer's premium, if not some type of
Well,
penalty.
no, I mean, because the thing is if he bids, I mean, yeah, I mean, he bid on it so other people couldn't buy it, right? I mean, this is like obviously not even in the same stratosphere, but I remember I sold something on eBay a couple years back because I don't do eBay anymore, or at least for selling, and it sold for like $130, and I was like, yes. And then I saw that the person had zero feedback. Yeah, yeah, and then I start thinking, "Oh, okay, well, everybody starts somewhere, right? Right?" And then after 7 days, nothing happens, and then I relist the thing, and I think I got, like, half of that when I relisted it. So that person who drove it up to 130 didn't buy it, and then the person who bid 120, I sent them a second chance offer. They didn't take it. So then I relisted it, and I think it sold for like maybe 65 or 70 or whatever. It was a lot less than what that winning bid was. And that's what happens sometimes, you know? I mean, people get caught up in it, right? And then they're like, oh, wait, I'm so close to winning this. Okay, I'll bid $5 more. I'm talking about my small items, but I mean, this is just at a bigger scale. This guy was drinking Red Bull so he wouldn't miss a bid.
Look, if he doesn't have the money, then suing him is a waste of time because he's not going to produce another, you know, $1 million or whatever he owes. So it's not going to happen, or $2 million he owes. It's not going to happen. But if they relist it and it sells for a lot less, all those headlines.
720 is what he owes.
How much?
720,000.
Okay. It doesn't say in the story that whether he doesn't have it or not. He keeps saying, "Well, I'm not really into this as much," and and then he rattles off a list of all these famous Canadians he knows who might have money, like Gretzky and Drake and the Oilers owner. But they're not interested because there is no upside to this.
His claim is he's not trying to profit off of this. He
Right?
just wants to
He
make
wants
it go away.
break even. Yeah, make it go away. Break even, basically.
It's because you did something. Okay, you weren't chugging Red Bulls. You were chugging vodka, first of all. So let's get that straight right now. And if you were supposedly having Red Bulls, you were drinking like Vegas bombs or something because you got wasted and then you stayed focused and sharp the rest of the night. Yeah, right. You just kept clicking bids. So you went forward with your lack of passion into extended bidding time and wiping everybody else off the map to win this thing. And then all of a sudden now, when it comes time to pay the bill, you're just like, oh, too many other people are more passionate than me. I see this now. I see the error of my ways. Get out of here. Seriously.
Look.
I have no sympathy for this guy. I don't care.
No,
I just don't. I don't care.
No, I agree. No, there's no sympathy. It's just that anybody can do this, run up a price. So anybody with good credit, let's say, to get approved, could scam auction houses by just running up bids and then saying, "Well, I'm not paying for that. I don't have any money." And then the auction house goes, "Oh, okay, we'll relist it." It's not good precedent, especially this auction item had so many eyeballs on it. Everyone was talking about it. It was the biggest thing in the hockey hobby until Bedard showed up. But it was like a big deal for a month, and it was a thing. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, remember that auction? Yeah, well, it's not what you thought it was.
Again, I just totally think that there's something going on here because you always hear about auctions after they close and get paid about these big things. You never hear about big auctions like this and them going full bore on here's a story, here's an article, here's the guy, let's put him on the news, let's spend this whole time. And did you see that picture that they used of him on like a lot of the articles that came out of him holding up the one Gretzky cards he owns?
Yeah.
Is it just me or does that one look totally fake? Like straight up looks like a fake Gretzky rookie.
Oh, it could be one of those $5 ones that reproduction.
It looks totally off if you ask me, but that's besides the point, a whole different conversation. It bothers me because it eliminates any type of faith that anybody would have in these bigger auctions. So again, I don't see a reason. This isn't good publicity for an auction house like this, unless there's a bigger play here. And I don't know what that bigger play would be. If it comes out later and we find out what it was, I'll be like, see, there it was. But I can't think of one.
Nah, I can't either. So you brought up Connor Bedard, and SP Game Used came out recently, 23-24 SP Game Used, and now we're really getting the high end Connor Bedard cards finally, right? Like towards the end of the regular season, we're starting to get those rookie patch auto cards. I mean, there have been some autographs already in Series 2. There were some autographs, and of course, in like his Team Canada cards, autographs in that as well. But now we got like the, okay, he's in a Blackhawk jersey, draft jersey, whatever. But then there's other ones where he's playing and they're autographed. And Tim, you were so nice to compile this listing of sold Bedard cards, in particular the autographed lettermark cards. I can't believe these prices.
The draft day marks, yeah.
Yeah, between $2,000 and $3,000 for basically a photo of him at the draft and a manufactured letter and then an autograph on the letter. Okay, an autograph's an autograph, and the lettermark cards are cool. And it's always cool when somebody gets like the full name of the player and they like put it out and like on display and take a photo of it, and you go, oh, that's cool. You got it. You got all the letters to spell Crosby. That's pretty cool. Of course, I'd be spelling curse words and I would just find like random letters if I was going to put them on display. Oh my God. I should do like a display of 4-letter words because my display case holds exactly 4 cards across. So I can just do 4-letter words. That would be awesome. So I need to find some cheap lettermark cards. This is going to be my new PC, my new project, my un-PC, not very politically correct personal collection, personal project.
The interesting thing is with a lot of the auctions that I saw that have closed and have sold
Yep.
with actual bids, I haven't seen an E. So nobody could actually spell Bedard yet. Maybe there's an E out there. I'm sure there are. Remember, they're all numbered out of 35. So all the draft day marks are serial numbered out of 35.
So there's 35 of each letter?
Yeah, there's 35 of each letter, which makes me assume that there's 70 Ds.
Okay.
One group is out of 35 and the other would be out of 35. So there might be 2 Ds that are numbered 4 out of 35 because there's 2 Ds in the name. So before people freak out and be like, hey, there's 2 serial numbered. They're exactly the same. Well, there's 2 Ds in his name. But I haven't seen an E sell. There might be one for sale. I didn't look at the for sales. I only looked at what is sold. But the listing that I sent you, a lot of them have bids. A lot of them have quite a few bids. Yeah, and they're all consistently 2,000 plus. A lot in the 3,000 range, the high 2s with sales with multiple bids on all of them. So consistently, that's probably the highest one we've seen so far. Granted, it's the newer product that has him in it, but still, that's one of the more premium cards that you're going to find out of there. Now, there's other ones. If you just do a search for Bedard and SP Game Use, you'll see a lot of the other ones that are in there. He has regular jersey pieces, regular single autographs, the base card that comes out of there. And those range in prices, but nothing as high as these. I mean, these have gone through the roof. And conversely, we've seen the prices dip on everything else that's been out there. So, we talked for weeks on end about, the Young Gun card and being, the card, and it was going to negate every other Bedard that came out up to that point. And those have come, for lack of a better phrase, back down to earth, sort of. Pricing wise, they're holding steady where they're at right now, but now the real thing is how many graded ones are hitting. We've talked about that before, and they're between like the biggest 4 grading companies. There's about 3,400 so far, but that's changing the subject to something else. So
well, no, but they kind of go hand in hand because now, like, are people going to slow down on buying the Young Gun as other more attractive cards start coming out? And especially like once there's a deluge of graded Young Gun cards, like I can understand when you want to be the first to market, you got to buy that Young Gun, you got to send it in to get graded, you got to be the one that listed on eBay first or second and try to get that $5,000 sale for a PSA 10 or whatever, right? But once, I'm looking at these numbers that you sent me, PSA with 3,000, over 3,000. About almost half of those are 10s, right? BGS with 16 10s. Okay, that's way less. But yeah,
But they're 10, that's the 10 pristine. That's like the gold label 10.
right. But what I'm saying though is that whether it's a 10 in this or a 10 in that, there's still over 1,500 10s or whatever. If you combine all of the different companies together, right?
Yeah, the gem rate, quote unquote, the gem rate on that has been consistently pretty high. I mean, it was a little higher on PSA, but they've gotten more submissions now. So
Of course.
with like 3,400 plus that have been sent to PSA, BGS, and SGC, and I even threw in tag in there just to, to see how much fun that it was, that knowing people have sent 18 of these to tag. Still, the lowest end, the gem rate is 46% at PSA with that high of a count, which is kind of crazy. It's 75% at Beckett and 83% at SGC. So they're still pulling those high rates. So what does that tell you? Well, I guess quality control is a little better than it was in the past years.
I'm noticing a lot of young guns all have the same defect, and that's a flaw in the upper right corner on the front of the card. There's like some chipping, or almost like a little, like a chip, but almost like a strip, like not just like a little ding or an indent, but like a little, like a quarter of an inch or an eighth of an inch or whatever. I haven't actually figured out what measurement, but enough that like you look and go, is that glare? And then you go look closer, at the supersized picture, and you go, nope, that's a defect.
Is it like a print line?
No, it's like
a chip in the printing?
Yeah, like like when a card, like an upper deck card chips, and then you see kind of like the white that's underneath the printing, like the white card stock. That's kind of what it looks like.
Interesting.
But like I said, like I'm surprised and not surprised, right? Like, wow, $3,000 for a lettermark card. I mean, that's basically a manufactured patch. And I mean, I think if I wanted an autograph, I'd want like something not signed on fabric. And I mean, I get it. If you like it, you like it. That's fine. That's no dissing there. And I have autographs on pieces of jersey that have since been cut and put onto cards. I know President's Choice has done that sort of thing in the past, and I've bought some of them.
But are you going to spend $15,000 to spell Bedard?
No, I mean, I would just spend $9 to spell dad. Or no, I'm not a dad, so maybe $9 to spell rad, because I'm rad.
Because for me, if I spent $15,000 to spell Bedard, I might as well spell divorce, because that's what it would be.
There is no I in Bedard.
Oh, I was going to spell dead. Yeah.
Well, either way.
Spell divorce.
Math is hard.
Yeah, so spelling. Clemente, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I'm just tired talking about Bedard.
Good thing, because we're not done yet.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna probably talk about him for the rest of the show.
Bye. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. See you next week. It was fun. Oh man. Tim Horton's Greatest Duos packs have PWHL cards in it, which is pretty cool. And they're in their PWHL jerseys, which is...
Do either of you have a Tim Hortons anywhere near you?
Nope.
No, there's a few in New York, but they don't have any hockey. It's only Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard they have them in Buffalo.
They do have them in Buffalo, and I remember when I went to Niagara Falls back in 2022, I don't think I went to a Tim Hortons there, but I do recall that one of the card shops had a bunch of Tim Hortons packs that they were selling of Buffalo Sabres players. So they did do a regional team set of Sabres players at like Buffalo and Niagara Falls area Tim Hortons.
But they didn't have like this kind of thing.
No, nothing like the Tim Hortons set or Team Canada set or this Greatest Duo set, which to me just sounds like hey, how can we sell more Connor Bedard cards? Let's just create more sets. Let's just keep creating sets. Let's just make up sets. Let's come out with, another 5 sets a month or something. I don't know. So people are opening full cases. Yeah, of course these are going out the back door. This has been happening forever. This is why those McDonald's football cards that I'm obsessed with from the 80s are so easy to find, most of them, because they would just they would just go out the back door. I knew guys who were like older than me because I was like 10 back then, so they were like in their 20s, and they were talking about how they would just buy like full sets off of the managers back then. Now this is McDonald's and this is 35, 40 years ago, but it's not surprising that not only with the Tim Hortons cards hitting the auctions before they're even available in the stores, but the National Hockey Card Day cards being sold on eBay the day before National Hockey Card Day, which was Saturday, April 13th.
It's funny you mentioned that because on Friday I did that. I went on eBay out of curiosity, and there were, not a ton, but there were people selling cards, National Hockey Card Day cards, and I thought, oh, the store says you can't open them until that Saturday, but people got their hands on them.
Well, the thing with the NHCD, I saw them a few days before,
Yeah.
just a few days before.
Yeah.
With the Tim Hortons stuff, if you just search the Tim Hortons greatest duos that are on eBay right now and go backwards on the auctions,
Yeah.
they had auctions of this stuff being advertised as in hand, showing multiple quantities, like specific quantities of the cards,
Wow.
going back to April 7th.
Wow.
This came out today as we're recording, which is the 15th.
It's a whole week.
So
yeah.
a whole week, people were buying these and selling them out the back door, to the point where when this promotion comes out, I hear people talk all the time. Half of Tim Hortons don't even put the advertising stuff up because they've already gotten rid of the cards before the event starts.
Right.
So
Right.
Tim Hortons is the cards are a huge deal in Canada.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
I mean, tons of collectors like eat this stuff up and they go after this. And there's people that build these sets year in and year out and try to build master sets with all the inserts and everything else. So them adding another one to the roster, when they did the Legend set in addition to the regular one, was it last year? People were like, oh no, another set, we got to go for it. Well, now they did it again this year. So you'll have the greatest duo set, and you'll have the regular one that comes out later in the year. So, I mean, these are uberly popular. So I can't fault them for that. But just the simple fact that everybody's just trying to game the system all the time on this stuff. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
When I went to Toronto for the expo in 2022, I remember I walked into the Tim Hortons not far from the convention center. I walked in and I said, do you have any of the cards? And they said, yeah. I'm like, all right, I'll buy 10 packs. And I'm like, do you have the album? And they said, yeah. And I bought that too. And I was like, cool, right? Then I remember in 2023, almost every Tim Hortons I went to did not have packs. Now, Clemente, I know we went to a Tim Hortons together. Did that one have packs? Do you remember the one that was close to your hotel, that was kind of midway between the hotel and the convention center?
That one did not, but the one close to the convention center on day one had no packs. And then the next day, someone in line ahead of me asked, and they said yes. And then that's why I bought some too, but no album.
Right. I could not find the album anywhere. And then I even remember the Tim Hortons that was at the Hockey Hall of Fame. They had a sign up that said, trade night. Come and trade your Tim Hortons cards with other collectors and finish your sets. So I walked in and I said, oh, do you have any packs for sale? And they're like, oh, no, we've been sold out of those for like a month now. And I'm like, wow, okay, yeah. So obviously it's gotten a lot harder, of course, because the Connor is in it. So everyone's buying the packs with the hopes beyond hopes that they're going to get rich off of Bedard cards.
Look, there comes a point where, like, if you're buying cases or getting your hands on cases of Tim Hortons duos just to pull a Bedard, and I don't know how much this card is worth, but at some point the market is just saturated. I mean, you can make 37,000 different rookies, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know. It's exhausting. I think it's just to even think about, because I feel like the Young Guns is like, yeah, it's iconic. It's Young Guns, fine, but there's too many. Not just of that particular card. I'm talking about different versions, because Upper Deck wants to, like you said, they got to make every type of Bedard card possible. It almost feels like this entire set was created so they can put Bedard in it. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's not.
Well,
You know,
I'm certainly not chasing the Bedard, but I do want the Andreas Athanasiou card. So if I can get that, I'll be good.
well, I think you won't have too much trouble probably.
Are you being funny or is there a real reason?
Yeah, because Bedard's on the other side.
Oh, that's who they paired him up with? That seems kind of cruel.
Yes. So for people that don't understand what these are, essentially, so this whole entire set is based off of the idea of duos. So the front of the card features one player, the back of the card features another player. So essentially it's two cards in one.
Mm.
Really was what it boils down
Just
to.
the fronts of each card, though. So it's like two card fronts.
Yeah, so like you're not going to get a front with statistics on the back, it's a front and a front. Although the other front has the number of the card on the back.
That's like a donut with frosting on both sides. I like it.
Yeah.
See, when I first heard of it, I thought duos was like, oh, they're gonna put like Gretzky and Messi on a card, and they're gonna put, I don't know, Malkin and Crosby on the same card. Like I thought it was like duos, not this double faced thing.
Right, and I remember it was a subset in 0607 OPG called Rookie Sophomore Showdown. Do you remember that, Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember because the Penguins card had Crosby and Malkin. Yeah, rookie sophomore showdown or something like that. And I just looked at that. I said, that's another excuse to make a Crosby card, right? Like, hey, how can we put another Crosby in? Even though it wouldn't have been a rookie card, but it would have been like another Malkin rookie card. Yeah, like you said, Clemente, I thought it'd be like the two players or like Pinnacle's Chemistry on Canvas, which was a terrible name for a pretty good insert set, which featured paintings of like two players that played together on the same team. The problem was it was a Pinnacle product, so it had like so many logos shoved on the front of it that you only saw like that much of the artwork because the rest of it was like, oh, and then we're going to put a frame border around it, so we're really playing up that it's a painting thing. But then we're also going to like plaster logos all over it too. So yeah.
Well, in the Crosby Malkin thing,
Yep.
the Crosby card in this set, you know who they paired him up with?
Malkin, I hope.
His teammate Nathan McKinnon.
Okay, they're both from Nova Scotia.
They're both the spokesman for Tim Hortons. So they put them both on the same card.
So what's the rationale for the duos?
Almost all of them are teammates, like you were saying.
Oh, okay.
Almost all of them are
Okay.
teammates.
Okay.
That one's an exception because obviously they're spokesmen. They put Brady and Matthew on the same card because obviously they're brothers.
I'm assuming Tim Horton is in the set.
Tim Horton's in there, but they put him with Frank Mahavlich.
That makes sense. That works.
That
Yeah.
works. Yeah, sure.
So that makes sense on that end. I thought there was one other one I remembered seeing that they had two separate teams. Oh, technically it's not two teams, I guess. But they put Joe Sakic and Peter Stastny together. So one's in an Avs jersey and one's in a Nordiques jersey. They could have put them both in Nordiques jersey, technically.
Sure.
But they didn't.
Okay.
And I believe they paired up the PWHPA players too. I think for the most part. From what I could see, they looked to be paired up together. So, but yeah, those were the only different exceptions. The rest of them are team based.
Yeah, look, I think it's cool that they have the women's league in a set. That's cool. But also the same issue with Tim Hortons happens all the time. It's that we can't get our hands on it really easily. If you go on eBay, you want to buy packs, it's expensive. And the whole fun of going in and getting like a donut or coffee and getting a couple of packs is lost on us because we don't live in Canada. So I just really wish that somehow they make a deal with like an American company like Dunkin' or McDonald's and sell cards here. But until that moment comes, we're not going to enjoy it as much. So
We just don't have the draw, man. We've talked about this like ad nauseum. We just can't get the draw.
right.
I wouldn't mind seeing like a regional thing, like you said, the Sabres did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a Tim Hortons though, so
Or like Clemente said, team up with like a Dunkin' or somebody that's more nationwide in the US. Even if you just release regional ones for that local market area, like
Like Original Six.
Chicago area has Blackhawks cards, or New York area might have the Islanders and the Rangers, or Florida gets the Panthers and Tampa Bay or something. There should be some way to do this, but I just feel like they look at it more of a overall marketing thing, and we just don't have the hockey draw that Canada has, unfortunately.
I remember like way back in like 97 or something, Pizza Hut in Chicago, they had a set 5 cards of Chicago Blackhawks legends, and I just could not get my hands on them. Like, I was living downtown, I was going to school, and there was like no Pizza Hut like close to me. If there was one close to me, I would have walked there and like bought a pizza every day or something. And I remember calling one and trying to get them to deliver. And they're like, "Oh, you're too far." And I'm like, "Well, I'm only like 2 blocks past your delivery radius." And they're like, "No, that's too far." I'm like, "Okay, I will meet you at the corner of this street and this street if you bring me a large pizza and my Blackhawks cards." And he's like, "No, we're not allowed to do that. You have to be at an address." I tried. Look, we all have stories like that.
And fast forward to 2024, you
Yeah.
can order Domino's from the middle of a park somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And they deliver it by helicopter, like drone or something.
A little parachute drops down like a tribute
Yeah.
in the Hunger Games.
Pack of cards comes down a little parachute.
Oh, I
Yep.
love that. That'd be great. Like,
Like pamphlets
Yay.
during war, like when the Americans dropped pamphlets before they bombed the place. It's like the same thing.
Thank you, denizens of District 12, for this pack of Tim Hortons cards. Right. Yeah, I love it.
There needs to be some marketing companies listening to us. We have great ideas.
Yeah. Well, I remember I went to a Bulls game a few years back, and I was somehow lucked my way into like one of the luxury boxes because I had a friend who worked for a big company, and they had like one of the luxury boxes that was huge, and it just had all this food that was catered and everything. And I remember they dropped from the rafters like rolled up t-shirts on parachutes, and they were just like slowly coming down, right? Because they were on parachutes. And for like a split second, I'm seeing this thing and it's in my reach. I can almost reach it. And I see somebody in like one of the, because we're like above the mezzanine, but below like the first balcony or whatever. So I see the balcony people trying to reach it. And like my competitiveness got the better of me. And I like reached and grabbed it and pulled it down. And I was like, yeah, because the person in the balcony didn't get it, right? But then I realized that the kid in the last row of the mezzanine looked really sad. So I tapped him on the shoulder with the rolled up shirt, and the dad's like, look. And then I handed him the shirt and I said to the dad, I said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "I don't know what came over me. It was like that scene in the Hunger Games where they're dropping down the little tributes on the parachutes." And he just bust out laughing. He's like, "Yeah, I totally know what you mean." Like, "Oh, I can almost reach it. It's right." So yeah, like little packs of cards raining down. That would be great.
You're better off because they say the shirts were extra large, but they were really pre-shrunk to medium. So,
yeah.
like most of the free giveaway shirts are.
Yeah, that's the only time I caught a shirt at a game, and it was falling very slowly. It wasn't like shot out of a cannon where you actually have to try to catch it and risk life and limb. I think this has been a great show. Any last things you guys want to add before we wrap it up?
I'm sure the next time we talk, there'll probably be another 27 Bedard sets that are out. So I'll have to keep shopping, keep looking.
Yeah, there's only 24 on the docket.
Yeah, we'll have SP, SPX, SP Authentic, SPF 50. I don't know. We could just keep making up sets.
SP50 is like a sunscreen, I think.
I know. That was a joke.
Oh.
But if you explained it, then I guess it wasn't that funny of a joke.
Sorry. It was lost on me.
No, not burn, because you got the SP50 on. It saves you from the burns.
Don't forget SP Retail, where it's just SP.
Right.
Oh, no. SP Retail is, oh boy, it's terrible.
I know. It's like, yeah, we know you want to build the set cheaper, so we're going to just call it SP and change the logo. But otherwise, it's the same card.
Yeah.
That could be like, is SP a variant, or is it its own set?
It's a cheap variant.
But it's the same thing.
With blue and purple parallels, yeah.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for next time.
All right. Well, I think this is where we're going to wrap it up. So thank you, everyone, for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe. Please be sure to tell your friends. Write us a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by buying a shirt at shop.puckjunk.com. And if you like to read, please subscribe to the newsletter at puckjunk.com/newsletter. And until next time, collect what you like.
For more hockey goodness, follow us on Twitter at PuckJunk.